Under a cloudy sky, a simple church-like building stands in a rural village. Inside, the pews are filled with the backs of many elderly villagers. An older woman's voice bellows, complaining about the disrespect of today's youth. She looms over a young man, demanding medicine for her harvesting aches. The alchemist Magna calmly reminds the woman, Ilse, of her recent prescription. Ilse angrily retorts that she has already consumed the entire supply. She argues that since the ingredients are from the village, they are essentially free. Magna attempts to explain the dangerous side effects of overusing the potion. Ilse furiously cuts him off, insisting that she knows her own body best. She continues to berate him like a child for questioning her judgment. Defeated, Magna covers his face and murmurs that he understands. He presents a heavy wooden crate packed with dozens of potion bottles. He gives her a new month's supply, pleading with her to follow the dosage. Ilse snatches the crate, grumbling that he should have given it to her sooner. Magna's expression darkens with deep frustration as he watches her leave. Alone, he reflects on being the only alchemist for the aging population. He peeks out the door, seeing the clinic is still crowded with patients. He observes the bustling waiting room, a daily drain on his energy. Two of the elderly patients admit to each other they aren't actually sick. He continues his work, tending to an old man's leg, his burden clear. Magna kindly asks another patient, Yona, if his condition has changed. Yona dismisses the question, stating his body is the same as always. He reveals a storm damaged his roof and asks Magna to fix it for him. Magna tries to explain his packed schedule of appointments and foraging. The villagers angrily demand he fix the roof immediately or by the weekend. Later, he sets another man's arm, burdened by endless, miscellaneous chores. He informs the man the fracture is treated and he should stop taking potions. The man complains that it still hurts and demands more medicine. Magna explains that his natural healing power should be sufficient now. The man then orders Magna to buy supplies for the harvest festival. Magna wearily remembers his promise to fix Yona's roof on that day. The man dictates that Magna should finish it all by the next morning. Magna weakly agrees, knowing it means traveling all night without sleep. The man's expression hardens into a self-righteous sneer. He begins a lecture declaring that hardship is good for the young. He concludes that today's youth lack grit, pushing Magna to his limit. And so, Magna finds himself foraging deep within the forest. His woven basket is brimming with the herbs and mushrooms he has gathered. He kneels, wondering aloud if he has collected enough to satisfy everyone. From behind, the massive form of a beast quietly approaches him. The saber-toothed creature lunges forward, its jaws wide for the kill. Magna turns instantly, his weary demeanor replaced by that of a fighter. In a blur of motion, he draws an ornate flintlock pistol from his hip. He takes aim, his face a mask of cold, focused concentration. The hammer clicks back, and the pistol fires with a deafening roar. The powerful shot sends the beast flying backward, its head exploding. He stands over the slain creature, another one of his duties fulfilled. He bitterly reflects that culling dangerous monsters is also his job. His life is a relentless cycle of work with no time for himself. The moon hangs high in the sky as night finally falls. Utterly exhausted, Magna slumps into a chair in his empty home. He laments that he has finished all his tasks without having had a chance to eat. He realizes his simple dinner of bread and dried meat is gone. Looking at the empty basket, he understands someone has eaten it. He recognizes the culprit as Yago, an old man prone to wandering. With a sigh, he resolves to gather more ingredients before he can rest. His foot steps out into the darkness once more, leaving his home behind. He admits to himself that it would be a lie to say this life isn't hard. Walking alone, he reflects on the burden of his solitary, thankless work. But more than anything, one single thing wears him down the most. The demanding, entitled faces of the villagers flash in his mind. He thinks of their hypocrisy, demanding his service without a word of thanks. A calm voice calls his name, and he turns around, surprised. It is the village chief, her face placid and kind. She asks if he has already finished his work for the day. He expresses concern for her, asking if she is feeling unwell. She smiles, saying she is fine, and offers him a loaf of bread. She explains that she baked it for him, knowing he must be busy. Magna asks if it's really for him, and she warmly confirms that it is. She says the remote village couldn't survive without his help. Overjoyed, he thanks her profusely, admitting he was just getting hungry. As he runs off, she thinks that the village certainly has its unpleasant people, but she notes that Magna is their only alchemist and their only youth. Magna, reinvigorated, resolves to keep trying for the village's sake. He feels renewed, knowing there are people who actually appreciate him. Once he is gone, however, the chief's face becomes a cold, calculating mask. Later, foraging in the woods, Magna realizes with a start that he dozed off. He hurries back towards the village, worried about being late again. He frets that closing the clinic will only earn him more complaints. Approaching the village plaza, he is surprised to see figures gathered. He wonders who could possibly be in the plaza at such a late hour. Peeking from cover, he sees the chief with a mysterious, masked man. The masked man praises the wonderful quality of a recovery potion. The chief lists the types, including vitality potions, and demands payment. Magna's eye widens in absolute shock at the sight. He recognizes the crates of potions he prescribed for the villagers. The masked man offers a price of 3.5 million G for the lot. The chief's face is cast in a menacing, greedy shadow. She reminds him that the war in the West is driving up medicine prices. She asks menacingly if he truly wishes to sever ties with her. The man quickly apologizes and raises his offer to 5 million G. The chief accepts the new price with a smug, satisfied expression. She muses aloud about the alchemist's impressive production rate. A dark, shadowy figure makes a sinister offer to buy a young man's goods. The young man is utterly terrified by the menacing proposition. Magna walks with a tense and determined stride. His face is contorted in a silent, pained scream of frustration. His worn, pointed boots kick up dust as he moves forward. He runs with purpose through a narrow path between the trees. A black carriage rumbles along a dusty road, continuing its journey. A dark enclosed carriage rumbles along a wooded path, carrying two robed figures. Inside, a younger masked figure asks his partner how he acquires such fine potion ingredients. The older figure scoffs, questioning if he thinks he uses common stones and grass. He chides his companion, stating an ignorant person couldn't perform proper alchemy with such things. An illustration of a log becoming planks demonstrates alchemy as the magical restructuring of matter. The lesson continues, explaining that living things possess a natural, magical resistance. Therefore, alchemists must use special magic materials that have very low resistance. A symbol flashes as he reveals these rare, expensive materials are monopolized by the Alchemy Association. The younger alchemist wonders if his partner has a special method for acquiring these materials. The older man dismisses the question, stating that all that matters is their ability to profit. Their carriage approaches a quiet village at night, a church standing solitary on a hill. Inside a cluttered workshop, a voice cries out in disbelief. A devastated Magna realizes the village chief was hoarding the potions he made for everyone. Clutching his head, he understands now why the village's potion consumption was so strangely high. A horrifying thought strikes him. He is not a member of the official Alchemy Association. An image of a guillotine appears as he realizes trafficking unsanctioned goods is a capital crime. The chief's sinister face haunts him as he grasps that he's been an unwitting accomplice. He wrestles with his options, wondering if he should report the crime, knowing he can't continue. Utterly defeated, Magna collapses onto his desk, overwhelmed by his terrible predicament. He whispers how awful the situation is, his face buried in his hands. In anguish, he recalls that being needed by the village was his sole motivation. A memory of a gleaming, cross-shaped pendant surfaces in his mind. He recalls wearing the pendant, his mind reeling from the devastating betrayal. A woman's voice echoes from his past, calling him Magna and declaring him a genius. A flashback shows a younger Magna with his teacher, a nun, on a windswept hill. His teacher marvels at his ability to manipulate magic with such precision at his young age. A beaming young Magna proudly presents a small, intricate metallic sculpture of a woman. His hands gently hold the shining figurine he just created from thin air. His teacher kneels, urging him to leave the village for the city when he's older. She insists his great talent shouldn't be wasted and that he could join the Alchemy Association. Young Magna, clutching his creation, offers to stay and help his teacher instead. He holds the small statue out to her as a heartfelt gift. His teacher is touched, telling him the kind sentiment alone is more than enough for her. A pendant gleams as she tells him he is more than just his kindness. She kneels before him, telling him to prioritize his own well-being. She carefully places the cross-shaped pendant around his neck. A young person's future, she explains, should never be sacrificed for an old person's sake. On the hill, she tells him the world is vast and he will surely find his purpose. Her hand rests on his head as she assures him he will find what he wants to do. In the present, Magna holds the pendant, her words echoing in his memory. He clenches his fist, whispering that he understands her message now. A shot of the open sky signifies his newfound freedom and resolve. His boots step onto a dusty path as he prepares for his journey. Walking through a forest, he resolves to go to the city but wonders what he'll do next. He worries about what he can accomplish in a new town where he knows no one. A glint in his eye shows his determination to find what he truly wants to do. His thoughts are shattered by a piercing scream that echoes through the trees. The camera pans up to the treetops, the source of the sound just beyond. A scene of chaos unfolds, a carriage under attack by a horde of goblins. The grotesque goblins, led by a hulking hobgoblin, swarm forward with crude weapons. A terrified merchant with a bandana sweats profusely as he watches the assault. A blonde warrior grits her teeth as a goblin's claw digs into her arm. Her red-haired companion is also wounded, clutching her arm in pain. The two adventurers fight back fiercely with a cross-edged slash and a powerful kick. Despite their skill, they are surrounded, fighting amidst the bodies of fallen goblins. The blonde adventurer, Lucia, cries out in despair that they are finished and will die here. Her companion, Liz, angrily reminds her that it was her idea to abandon the carriage and flee. Lucia wails that if they don't protect the cargo, they won't get paid. Liz retorts by asking which is more important, their lives or the money. The merchant shouts a desperate warning to the girls. Liz is ambushed from behind by a goblin with a knife. Lucia screams her sister's name in terror. The two sisters are beset on all sides, about to be overwhelmed. Liz cries out for her older sister in alarm. A goblin's crude weapon swings down toward Lucia's head. Magna appears suddenly, shoving Lucia aside as the goblin's attack draws blood. Landing gracefully, Magna looks up at the stunned Lucia, saying he made it just in time. Lucia stares in shock and disbelief at her unexpected savior. She asks who he is as he stands up to face the enemy. Magna coolly replies that introductions can wait until after they've dealt with the goblins. The remaining goblins turn their hateful gaze on the newcomer. Unfazed, Magna faces the charging horde, his hand moving to his hip. His hand closes around the ornate grip of one of his pistols. He draws two long-barreled pistols, holding one in each hand with practiced ease. Liz gasps in shock, exclaiming that he's wielding two pistols at once. Magna unleashes a simultaneous volley, the pistols roaring with power. Liz thinks to herself that it's impossible. He won't have time to reload against so many. In an instant, the entire goblin horde is wiped out, their bodies riddled with fatal shots. Lucia and Liz stare in awe, wondering how he could rapid fire without reloading. The merchant's jaw hangs open in utter disbelief at the display. Magna explains that he activates his alchemy at the same time he fires. A transmutation circle glows as he demonstrates his unique ability. He reveals that he draws the material for his bullets directly from the earth beneath his feet. At the same time, he extracts the components for gunpowder from the surrounding atmosphere. A flashback shows a desperate young Magna, forced to use alchemy without proper materials. He recalls having to use his own body as a catalyst to force the impossible. This was his method to overcome the lack of materials, his superlative alchemy. His teacher's voice reminds him that he might one day create gold from stone. In the present, he declares the name of his perfected art, golden transmutation. An ogre-like monster stands victorious over a field of slaughtered goblins. The beast grips its massive club, its expression one of grim satisfaction. With a mighty roar, the behemoth charges forward across the battlefield. Magna kneels and unleashes a rapid volley of shots from his dual pistols. The bullets ricochet harmlessly off the monster's thick hide. Lucia screams that his small-caliber bullets aren't stopping the creature. She yells for him to run as the monster looms over him, ready to crush him. The monster's gnarled hand clenches its club, preparing for the final blow. Magna dodges with incredible agility as the monster's foot smashes the ground. Crouching, he thinks that his golden transmutation doesn't discriminate based on materials. The monster's back erupts as his alchemy combines with its blood to form internal spikes. Noir lands gracefully on his feet, his back turned to the now defeated beast. The massive, ogre-like monster lies twitching, its body impaled by countless sharp black spikes. A blonde, fanged girl stares in utter disbelief, wondering how swords appeared inside the creature. Beside her, a red-haired girl can only breathe a single word of awe at the amazing sight. Noir lets out a quiet, weary sigh, the tension of the battle finally leaving him. He approaches a man they rescued, who is lying injured, and asks if he is all right. The man thanks him profusely, exclaiming that the young alchemist has saved his life. He adds that his two daughters are also safe thanks to Noir's intervention. Noir turns to the two girls, informing them that he will now tend to their injuries. He plucks two common dandelions from the ground, telling them to wait a moment. Placing the flowers into two empty test tubes, he prepares to perform his alchemy. With a flash of golden light, he transmutes the weeds into potent recovery potions. The miraculous concoctions now swirl with a vibrant, glowing liquid. The rescued man stares in shock, asking if he truly made potions from common weeds. The red-haired girl gratefully accepts a vial, offering to pay for it immediately. As her blonde companion drinks her potion, Noir tells them there is no need for payment. A gentle smile touches his lips as he continues his explanation. He states that because he is an unlicensed alchemist, he cannot legally accept money. Unwilling to let his kindness go unrewarded, the blonde girl firmly takes his hand. She insists that if that's the case, he must at least allow her to thank him properly. Her face erupts in a radiant smile as she thanks her big brother for saving her. Noir is visibly taken aback by the sheer force of her genuine, overwhelming gratitude. A faint, knowing smile touches his lips as a profound realization dawns on him. As she asks what's wrong, he understands that this is what he always wanted to do. A memory of his teacher surfaces, recalling his desire to use his power to make people smile. He remembers that this was the very reason he learned alchemy from his teacher. His new goal is clear: to become a licensed alchemist and help as many people as he can. The rescued man remarks that he has truly met a genius alchemist today. He asks Noir and the girls if they were on their way to the nearby town. Noir affirms his plan to visit the Alchemist Guild to acquire his license. As a token of thanks, the man offers them a ride to town in his horse-drawn cart. Noir graciously accepts the kind offer, stating it would be a great help. The blonde girl cheerfully volunteers for guard duty, feeling safe with Noir around. Her red-haired companion playfully reminds her that being guards is their actual job. The man laughs heartily, agreeing that guarding is indeed their line of work. The blonde girl sticks her tongue out playfully, full of newfound confidence. Back in Noir's desolate home village, an ominous feeling hangs over the church. The heavy wooden door of the church is violently smashed into pieces. Inside, angry villagers shout that the bastard is nowhere to be found. The village chief notes that all the gold in his travel sack are missing. She scowls, muttering that the brat must have realized he was being used and ran away. The villagers wail, asking what they'll do now that their life of luxury is over. The chief's eyes narrow with cold fury as she contemplates her next move. She slams open a hidden chest, knowing the boy has nowhere to go but town. A sinister thought forms as she looks at the chest's hidden contents. She reveals a cache of power potions, declaring they will chase him down and capture him. She orders her menacing-looking men to take 5 bottles of the potion each. A group of shadowy villagers greedily accept their share of the powerful concoctions. They uncap the vials and drink as the chief rants about the boy's betrayal. She screams that he dared to abandon the weak elderly who raised him. The potion's power courses violently through a villager's veins. His fist clenches, muscles bulging, as the chief decries the lack of discipline in today's youth. The villager's body contorts monstrously as he lets out an inhuman, bestial roar. The chief's eye glints with malice, snarling that it is the duty of the young to serve their elders. Meanwhile, the group arrives at the sprawling Labyrinth City, Kuramuran. Before them stands the magnificent Kuramuran branch of the Alchemist Guild. Their horse-drawn cart pulls up to the impressive, castle-like stone building. The two girls gaze up in awe, comparing the massive structure to a royal castle. The man explains that the guild holds a monopoly on the sale of magic potions and tools. He tells Noir he's lucky, as the guild is currently holding temporary recruitment exams. Noir's attention sharpens at the mention of a temporary exam, sensing an opportunity. The man elaborates that a war in the West has created a severe manpower shortage. Noir recalls a shady merchant in his village mentioning the very same thing. He stands before the guild, ready to disembark and begin his new life. With a bright, heartfelt smile, he thanks his friends for seeing him off. From the cart, his friends shout boisterous words of encouragement for his upcoming exam. He waves goodbye, the cart and his friends shrinking in the distance. Thinking of their kindness, he resolves to make them proud by finding his fortune. He walks towards the imposing guild hall, leaving his old life behind him. He approaches an official, formally stating his purpose to take the employment exam. The official greets him with a polite smile, acknowledging him as an examinee. He is instructed to fill out a form with his details before proceeding to the examination hall. With absolute focus, he fills out the application, determined to succeed. He hands in the completed form to the official. Standing before a massive gate, he resolves to sever his ties and become a true alchemist. He enters a vast, bustling workshop filled with dozens of other alchemists. Holding his exam number, he finds his assigned station, number 32. He marvels at the high-quality, professional alchemy set provided for the exam. He recalls his master's old, worn-out cauldron that was always on the verge of breaking. With tools this fine, he feels confident he can perform with a new level of precision. He observes other candidates setting up their own personal, high-end equipment. A thought strikes him as he observes the other alchemists in the room. He notes the sheer number of people, realizing all of them are alchemists like him. A jolt of unease hits him. He has never met another alchemist besides his master. He sees a woman with a powerful sage's staff and other advanced gear. Others are setting up complex personal apparatuses to enhance their work. He recalls leaving the graduating school section on his application completely blank. A wave of anxiety washes over him as he realizes his clear disadvantage. The loud, rhythmic ticking of a large wall clock echoes his growing worry. A sharp voice announces that time is up and the provisional exam will now begin. Startled out of his thoughts, he looks up as the examiner gives her instructions. The examiner, a woman with glasses, tells all candidates to open the wooden box at their station. She explains that the subject of their exam is inside the box. His eyes widen as he peers inside, murmuring in surprise at the contents. Inside the box is a bundle of leafy greens, which he instantly recognizes. He exclaims that it's heel leaf, but is confused by its paradoxically high essence and poor quality. He glances over at another candidate, who is also looking at the leaves with disgust. A woman complains she's never seen even B-rank goods in such a terrible condition. Another candidate agrees, shouting that the material is practically just a common weed. Noir is caught in the wave of collective confusion, wondering what the test's true purpose is. A stern woman with glasses explains the materials are non-standard items that are usually discarded. She illustrates that due to recent circumstances, the demand for cure potions has outpaced production. With a serious expression, she announces their exceptional decision to use these substandard goods. The examiner gestures to the provided alchemy stations, permitting their use. She also allows the candidates to use any personal equipment they have brought. Furthermore, she grants permission to use any of the tools available in the hall. Standing before the sea of alchemists, she declares this is the entirety of the examination. One candidate despairs, stating they were never taught how to perform alchemy on garbage. The examiner coldly thinks to herself that what she truly needs are combat-ready alchemists. A young candidate in a hat panics, thinking it's impossible to create a potion from this. Another alchemist gives up entirely, announcing that he is going home. Magna wonders what is happening, confused why everyone is complaining about the materials. He questions why they would give up on the exam just because of this. A nearby candidate observes that while damaged, the material is easier to process than weeds. He thinks that, with such a fine alchemy station, the task should be manageable. A daring idea strikes Magna. He could create a legendary elixir instead. He holds the wilted bundle of herbs in his hand, lost in deep thought. He considers his options, knowing making the requested cure potion is not impossible. A quiet moment of decision passes over his determined face. He resolves that a great opportunity should never be wasted. Comparing the potions, he decides the elixir is unquestionably the better choice. Standing resolutely at his station, he prepares to show them his true abilities. With renewed determination, he declares that he is going all out. The camera pans across the examination hall's stone exterior. Inside, the other alchemists continue their work at their individual stations. Suddenly, a man storms into the hall, angrily calling out. The head examiner, Klaus, turns and asks what the matter is. The man furiously questions why a commoner alchemist was allowed to take the exam. Klaus asks if it's a problem, explaining they needed to recruit regardless of background. He furiously retorts that a lack of academic background is the entire issue. Klaus bows her head slightly, offering a quiet apology for the situation. The angry examiner demands to know where the candidate is, ordering him thrown out. Klaus calmly points towards Magna, stating that he is right there. She identifies him as examinee number 32. Magna turns, cheerfully announcing that he has just finished his work. He proudly presents a bottle, declaring that he has created an elixir. Klaus stares in disbelief, repeating the word elixir as a question. Magna happily explains he wanted to make the best thing possible with the fine equipment. The angry examiner demands to see the potion, and Magna happily hands it over. The examiner activates his appraisal ability, his eye glowing with a magical symbol. His spell confirms the potion is a genuine elixir that fully restores health and magic. A look of utter disbelief crosses the examiner's face as he processes this. He mutters to himself that it is indeed a genuine elixir. With a sudden movement, he forcefully uncorks the precious bottle. In a shocking act of rage, he smashes the bottle violently against the floor. Magna is left speechless, drenched and utterly horrified by the sudden violence. The examiner turns on him, furiously asking if he is mocking them. He accuses Magna of bringing the elixir with him, calling it impossible to make. He furiously orders for the cheater to be seized and thrown out immediately. Guards move in at once, grabbing a panicked Magna by the arms. Magna desperately pleads, swearing he truly made it from the provided materials. He offers to make another one, but the examiner dismisses him as annoying. The examiner states it was their mistake to ever let a commoner into the building. With a final hateful glare, he orders Magna to never show his face again. The massive double doors of the workshop slam shut, leaving Magna alone outside. He collapses to his knees on the cold stone ground, his hopes completely shattered. He whispers in disbelief that they didn't believe him, though he used their materials. He wonders if he was ignored for some other reason, not just his background. He remembers feeling a disconnect when seeing the other candidates' reactions to the herbs. The memory of the examiner's furious reaction solidifies his confusion. Kneeling alone, he realizes that creating an elixir from those materials is abnormal. He recalls his master's words that he might even be able to create gold. He had never known how other alchemists worked, having no point of comparison. He clutches his chest, a staggering realization dawning on him. He asks himself if he is far more incredible than he ever imagined. He lets out a hollow, defeated laugh, overwhelmed by the revelation. His expression turns grim as he wonders what this means for him now. He realizes his unique alchemy is why he's an outcast with no value. Dejected, he wonders what to do next as a pair of shoes appears. A cheerful girl with a halo and her companions spot him, calling his name. Magna looks up, recognizing the two girls, Lucia and Liz. Lucia cheerfully asks if he's already finished with his exam. Liz smiles, certain that someone as capable as Magna would naturally pass. With a pained smile, Magna admits that he actually failed. The girls are stunned into silence, asking why it happened. Liz wonders what kind of difficult exam could stump someone as capable as Magna. Magna looks away, explaining that the test itself was actually simple. The three of them stand on the cobblestone path, discussing his failure. Lucia listens intently to his story, her expression serious. Liz is outraged, exclaiming that it's terrible to be kicked out just for being a commoner. Lucia realizes this means he's now unemployed and his original plan has failed. Magna can only let out a pained groan, confirming her deduction. An idea strikes Lucia, her expression suddenly brightening. She grabs her sister's arm, pulling her close. With a wide, fanged grin, she suggests he become an adventurer with them. Magna is completely taken aback by the sudden, life-altering proposal. Liz protests the suddenness, but Lucia insists Magna would be a reliable asset. She points out another reason for her spontaneous suggestion. Winking at Magna, she declares it'll be more fun than being with gloomy people. Magna is left speechless, caught in the whirlwind of her energy. Liz, embarrassed, scurries away, apologizing for her sister's outburst. She tells Magna not to worry about her feelings. Magna considers the offer, thinking Lucia might be right. He realizes he was foolish to think himself worthless and without value. He remembers the faces of those who believed in and supported him. Turning to them, he asks if they would truly let him join their party. Liz is still shocked, asking if he's sure after his plan to join the association. Magna smiles gently and confirms his decision with a simple, yes. Lucia erupts in a joyous grin, asking if he's serious. Magna explains that being an adventurer is an important job for society. With a knowing look, Lucia tells Liz that staying together would surely be far more enjoyable. Lucia then tackles Magna to the ground, bellowing a boisterous and overwhelming welcome. Utterly mortified by her sister's actions, Liz shouts her name in protest. Liz continues her frantic scolding, telling her older sister that her behavior is shameless. With great effort, Liz struggles to pull her gleeful sister off the pinned and surprised Magna. Lucia grins triumphantly, declaring that she will never let go of her new human healer target. Pinned beneath the chaos, Magna closes his eyes and reflects that this is how his life as an adventurer began. At the Alchemist Association, the aftermath of the recent employment examination is being discussed. A grizzled examiner notes with a grim expression that only 2 candidates passed out of more than 50. The female proctor clarifies that most of the examinees couldn't even channel magic into the materials. She elaborates that they lacked the fundamental technique required to lower a material's magic resistance. A quiet, cloaked candidate hesitantly calls out, trying to get the proctor's attention. With a nervous expression, she identifies herself as examinee number 31. The proctor turns, her expression sharp as she reminds the candidate that she already told her the results. The candidate insists that the proctor is mistaken about what happened. She declares with conviction that the person who sat next to her did not cheat. The proctor questions if she is referring to the commoner from the countryside. Looking down, the candidate admits that she can hardly believe what she saw herself. She begins to recount the unbelievable events concerning that man. A flashback shows Magna announcing that he created a legendary panacea from the simple test materials. The candidate explains that she was so stunned by the incredible sight that she couldn't speak up then. The grizzled examiner scoffs, his face a mask of contempt as he calls the claim utterly ridiculous. He lists the impossibly rare ingredients required for a panacea, such as dragon's tears and Ethereum dust. He adds that above all else, the lost art of golden alchemy is essential for such a creation. The examiner's face contorts with rage as he insists that no other method for creating a panacea exists. His eyes burn with fury as he equates Magna's claim to a swindler's boast of turning stone to gold. The elegant, crystalline bottle of Magna's creation sits on the examination table. The furious examiner had vowed to expose the boy's deception for all to see. He had confidently stated that the Alchemist Association has countermeasures for such fraud. He used a powerful sands of time catalyst to revert the potion back to its base ingredients. The examiner's face twists in utter shock and disbelief at the result. The female proctor is left speechless, a bead of sweat running down her face. The other examinees in the hall stare with their mouths agape, horrified by the outcome. The cloaked candidate and her peers look on, completely stunned into silence. The candidate recalls her own shock, hiding her face beneath her hat in disbelief. The potion had reverted not to rare ingredients, but to the simple heal leaf from the test. The proctor and another candidate realize that the dragon's tears and Ethereum are nowhere to be found. The grizzled examiner is left speechless, his mind unable to process the impossible truth. He frantically questions if his own appraisal spell failed, but knows such a basic magic is infallible. He recalls his absolute certainty when he had first identified the potion as a genuine panacea. His desperate thoughts turn to the sands of time catalyst, wondering if it could be flawed. He clutches the small ornate vial, his mind racing for a rational explanation. He dismisses the thought, knowing it was personally crafted by the renowned Professor Wiseman. The examiner realizes with dawning horror that a flaw in the catalyst is unthinkable. This leaves only one terrifying possibility lingering in his mind. He wonders if that boy truly created a panacea from those worthless, shoddy materials. The examiner's legs begin to tremble and give out from under him. He collapses to the cold stone floor, utterly overwhelmed by the revelation. Looking up at the empty space where Magna stood, he screams, demanding to know what that man truly is. Magna walks with his new companions, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. Adventurers are shown to be versatile workers, taking requests from both common citizens and the state. Their duties can include the protection of important individuals, acting as skilled bodyguards. They also undertake dangerous missions to subjugate powerful monsters threatening the land. Exploring deep, treacherous dungeons in search of lost treasure is another key part of their job. Sometimes their work is as humble as helping with simple household chores. Having joined the guild Cat's Paw, Magna begins his new life as an adventurer. As a novice, his journey starts not in a dungeon, but in the quiet mountains. Being the lowest one-star rank means he and his party cannot take on flashy, high-profile jobs yet. Their very first official quest is helping with the harvest in a mountain village's fruit orchard. Magna sits on a stool, having agreed to the simple task of assisting with the harvest. He looks up as a cheerful voice calls out to him, telling him to look at their find. Lucia proudly gestures to a massive barrel, exclaiming that she's gathered a ton of delicious-looking apples. With a drool, she playfully asks if she can eat just one of the tempting fruits. Liz sternly reminds her that they had already agreed not to eat the apples. A kind-looking farmer overhears and tells them not to worry about it. Lucia's eyes sparkle with pure delight upon hearing the farmer's permission. The farmer explains that this year's harvest is especially bountiful, so they should feel free to eat. With a grateful smile, Magna graciously accepts the kind offer and takes an apple. He takes a crisp bite while his two companions happily munch on their own apples. He reflects that the people here are kind, easing the wariness he felt about the suspicious quest. His thoughts drift back to the imposing stone building of the Adventurers Guild in the city of Kremlin. The guild hall is a bustling, multi-storied establishment filled with adventurers. He remembers standing before the main counter to complete his registration. The pleasant guild receptionist had reviewed his documents, confirming they were all in order. For the final step, she had asked for a drop of his blood to create his guild card. Magna had been unfamiliar with the term and had asked her what a guild card was. The receptionist explained it functions as an ID that magically reads and displays an adventurer's status. She noted that an adventurer's guild rank is directly tied to their level, recommending yearly updates. Magna had then inquired about the specific meaning of the term guild rank. The receptionist laid out the 1 to 5-star system based on an adventurer's level and achievements. She clarified that it was a safety system to prevent adventurers from taking on fatally mismatched quests. Reaching the pinnacle of 5 stars, she added, brings significant social standing and even noble invitations. She cheerfully told him to be patient, as it takes an average of 10 years to advance a single-star rank. Magna had felt overwhelmed, thinking to himself that it was a very long-winded explanation. His foot had tapped impatiently on the floor as he absorbed all the details. He had quietly agreed with her that it was indeed a very long story. The receptionist concluded the process, informing him his official guild card would be ready in about 10 days. Back in the present of the guild hall, Magna smiles, having finished the registration process. He approaches his companions, and Liz asks if he has found a suitable quest yet. Lucia is sprawled dramatically across a table, the picture of boredom, while Liz looks over papers. Lucia complains that as a 1-star party, there are no good, profitable jobs available. Liz soberly remarks that they can't afford to be picky about their work. She turns to Magna with a worried expression, asking if he is truly certain about joining their guild. Liz suggests that with his potential, he could easily join a higher-ranked, more prestigious party. Magna gently reminds her that they were the ones who invited him and playfully asks if she already dislikes him. Flustered, Liz shakes her head and waves her hands, insisting that's not it at all, and she's very happy. Their conversation is cut short as Lucia bolts upright, exclaiming that she's found something incredible. She shoves a quest flyer towards them, her expression a mix of shock and excitement, asking if it's insane. The flyer advertises a simple 1-star harvest job with a staggering reward of 500,000 gold. Magna's face contorts in utter disbelief, his internal alarms blaring that this is absolutely not a legitimate quest. A fanged blonde girl, Lucia, exclaims that the quest reward is 50 times greater than their last one. Her dark-haired companion, Magna, agrees the reward is unbelievable and asks Liz for her opinion. Liz, equally excited, insists they must accept the amazing offer before anyone else does. Magna is completely shocked by their immediate enthusiasm for the suspicious quest. He asks if they are truly serious, pointing out the shady nature of the quest description. Lucia dismisses his concerns, telling him to look closely at the flyer she's holding. She highlights a hashtag declaring the job is from a good, ethical employer. Magna remains skeptical, thinking a truly good job wouldn't need to advertise itself that way. Liz calmly states her belief that the Adventurers Guild would filter out any truly dangerous jobs. She turns to the guild's receptionist, seeking confirmation for her assumption. The receptionist smiles, confirming that all clients and rewards are thoroughly vetted by the guild. Lucia cheers triumphantly, raising the flyer and declaring that they are taking the job. Magna's gloved hand carefully plucks a perfect gleaming apple from a tree branch. He sits on a stool, harvesting apples from a tree in a sun-drenched orchard. Holding an apple, he thinks to himself that perhaps he was just being overly cautious. His mind drifts to the unpleasant memories he has of his old village. He reflects that this place feels different, less oppressive, because of the other young people. His gaze sharpens as he suddenly notices something unsettling among the villagers. He observes the smiling villagers, but one woman's expression seems to hide a flicker of pain. The seemingly idyllic scene of the harvest continues, but Magna's suspicion grows. A close-up shows his eye narrowing, a crack appearing in the perfect facade. A villager waves cheerfully from a distance, calling out to the group of adventurers. He invites them to the village chief's house for a report and a special treat. Lucia's eyes light up with pure joy as she shouts about the promise of apple pie. Liz politely tries to refuse, stating that the generous pay is more than enough reward. Lucia grabs her sister desperately, arguing they can't pass up this once-in-a-lifetime chance. She happily chirps that kids don't need to be so formal when a client is offering. She eagerly urges Magna to hurry up and follow them to the chief's house. Magna's expression is serious as he quietly agrees to go along with them. They approach a quaint, rustic house nestled in a snowy, tree-filled landscape. The interior of the house is humble, with a simple wooden table and kitchenware. Pots and pans hang from the wooden beams of the rustic kitchen ceiling. An elderly man with a kind face introduces himself as Zach, the village chief. He explains that the bountiful harvest has left them happily short-handed. Magna's suspicion returns as he questions the exceptionally high reward for simple labor. The chief just laughs, claiming with a crinkled smile that they have money to spare. A beautiful, steaming apple pie is placed on the table before the eager Lucia. The chief proudly presents the pie and tea as village specialties. He urges them to enjoy this simple token of their hospitality. Magna's expression hardens, his suspicion now fully ignited by the scene. His eye narrows as he activates his alchemical ability, analysis. His vision breaks the pie down into its mundane components like flour and apples. A final, sinister ingredient is revealed, a dark flower identified as deadly poison. He sees a vision of a hand crumbling the poisonous plant into the pie filling. He lunges across the table, slapping the food from the chief's hand. The chief cries out in shock as the poisoned pie spatters across his face. Lucha gasps in utter confusion at Magna's sudden, violent action. Liz, equally bewildered, cries out Magna's name, not understanding what is happening. Magna kicks over the bench as he orders his companions to draw their weapons. He coldly announces that the pie was poisoned with a paralyzing agent. Lucha is horrified by the revelation, her face a mask of disbelief. Liz gasps, her shock turning to grim understanding of their situation. The chief and his wife cower on the floor, their kind facades shattered. Magna looms over them, demanding an explanation for this hospitality. The chief's face is slick with sweat as he looks down in defeat. He mutters that their actions were unavoidable, that they had no other choice. His fear twists into desperate fury as he bellows in order to capture them. The door to the house begins to creak open, revealing an outside threat. Liz's eyes widen in alarm as she realizes they are being ambushed. The door bursts open violently, revealing the mob outside. A crowd of angry villagers pours in, armed with makeshift farm tool weapons. The three adventurers stand back to back, their expressions grim and ready for battle. The chapter title page shows the tense standoff inside the storehouse. Magna's eyes narrow with cold, analytical intensity as the fight begins. He slams his hand to the floor, unleashing his alchemy with blinding speed. The first villager to attack is sent flying backward, screaming in shock. The man Torabasami cries out in disbelief at being so easily repelled. A glowing transmutation circle appears on the floor where Magna's hand rests. He calmly states that he is using his alchemy to create a barrier. The room is now filled with bear traps, separating the adventurers from the mob. The chief groans, defeated on the floor as Magna approaches. Magna demands to know why they were poisoned, his pistol aimed at the chief. His gaze hardens as he asks if this is related to the village's lack of children. The villagers gasp, a wave of shocked realization spreading through the crowd. Lucha realizes aloud that she hadn't noticed the absence of children. The chief's eyes are squeezed shut, heavy with the weight of the secret. He opens his eyes, his expression one of grim finality. Liz confirms that she also hasn't seen a single child since they arrived. The chief confirms their suspicions, stating that what they said is true. A young woman cries out the chief's title in disbelief and horror. The chief states there is no longer any point in hiding the truth. He orders his people to lower their farm tool weapons. He lets out a heavy sigh, preparing to confess everything. He begins the story explaining they were attacked by a demon tamer a week ago. Their local militia was no match for the monsters and was swiftly slaughtered. In the chaos, all of the village's children were abducted. The villagers were forced to prostrate themselves before the victorious demon tamer. The tamer laid out his cruel terms for the children's survival. He sneered that if they failed to deliver adventures, their children would become poop. Magna grimly concludes that this is why they were targeted. The chief admits they were disarmed and had no choice but to obey. He acknowledges that no matter the reason, their actions were unforgivable. He states that he alone should bear the punishment for their crime. The chief believes it is his burden to take responsibility for failing to protect his people. He offers Magna an old ornate pistol, ready to accept his fate. Magna, however, refuses, stating that he does not see it that way. He declares that the villagers are the ones who are truly suffering the most. The chief looks up, startled and confused by the adventurer's words. Magna sees that the true villains are the ones who created this impossible situation. The villagers stare, stunned into silence by this unexpected display of empathy. Turning to his two companions, the young alchemist Magna declares his intention to help. The fanged girl, Lucha, looks on, initially surprised by his sudden resolve. Her expression quickly breaks into a wide, confident grin as she gives a hearty approval. The beleaguered village chief looks up, asking in disbelief if they truly mean it. Magna confirms his plan. They will defeat the demon tamer and rescue the children. A villager cries out in despair, insisting that such a feat is impossible. He frantically explains the overwhelming odds, citing the enemy's goblins and giant monster. A woman adds her fear that if they fight back, the children will be killed. The chief collapses in defeat, admitting they cannot save the children alone. Magna declares he will create a much larger fighting force in an instant. With intense focus, he shouts his plan to turn them all into an army. The name of his ultimate skill, Golden Transmutation, flashes across the scene. The powerful alchemy begins, dissolving the storehouse's wooden floor and barrels into light. Metal farm tools and cooking pots are also deconstructed by the swirling energy. The entire interior of the house is consumed by the transmutation, becoming raw material. A massive, glowing transmutation circle engulfs the room and the stunned villagers. A villager cries out in alarm, asking what is happening to them. The very structure of the building's walls and support beams begins to disintegrate. An old man shouts in terror, watching his home being torn apart by magic. Another man stares in shock as even their simple farm tools are consumed. Lucha watches the swirling vortex of light, asking what is going on. The raw materials reform into gleaming new helmets and sturdy wooden shields. Dozens of combat-enhancing potions materialize, neatly arranged and ready for use. When the light fades, it reveals a fully stocked armory of weapons and armor. Lucha stares in utter amazement, exclaiming that the house has become weapons. The villagers look on in disbelief at the impossible transformation of their surroundings. The chief finds a heavy, newly forged mace has materialized in his hands. Magna explains that he used everything around them to create the new arsenal. With a confident smirk, he challenges the chief, asking if victory is still impossible. The village chief's face contorts, his despair replaced by a rising fury. He grips the mace tightly, his hands trembling with renewed purpose. He agrees with the adventurer, declaring that they are the ones who have suffered most. With righteous rage, he bellows that they are the ones who want to crush their enemy. He rallies the villagers, commanding them all to take up their new arms. Under the pale light of a crescent moon, the newly formed army prepares for war. The villagers, now soldiers, charge into battle with a unified and furious war cry. A hulking beastman stares in shock at the sudden and organized resistance. The villagers fight fiercely, their coordinated assault overwhelming the surprised monsters. From the rear, Magna provides support, felling a creature with a well-aimed arrow. His arrow strikes true, embedding itself deep in the monster's head. Lucha becomes a whirlwind of motion, cutting down foes in the chaotic melee. The demon Tamir seethes, wondering where the villagers could have hidden such armor. He grits his teeth in frustration, cursing the unexpected turn of events. He grimly reminds himself that he still has his ultimate trump card, the Archdemon. Magna stands atop the defeated Archdemon, asking if this is the trump card. The demon Tamir lets out a scream of pure, unadulterated terror at the sight. Magna coldly commands him to surrender if he wishes to avoid further injury. The villain's weapon clatters to the ground as he is utterly defeated. The village chief and his militia surround the whimpering, broken demon Tamir. He is seen in custody, his face a mask of misery and defeat. He collapses to the ground, his will to fight completely shattered. Lucha calls out to Magna with a triumphant, fanged grin. She and Liz stand together, smiling at their hard-won victory. The village square fills with the sound of joyful, tearful reunions. Magna reflects on the success of his first adventurer job, despite the chaos. A new chapter begins titled, Soaring Rewards and Creeping Malice. A blonde woman from the guild bows deeply, offering a profuse, desperate apology. Lucha looks down at her, confused by the sudden and dramatic display. The guildswoman explains she heard about the incident from the village chief. She explains the guild is now pursuing legal action against the village. Lucha asks in outrage if they are being punished for helping the villagers. Magna and Liz soberly confirm that the chief will likely be held responsible. The guildswoman looks on, her face a mask of misery for the adventurers. At the counter, she tells Magna she will personally handle any uncertain testimonies. Lucha interrupts, excitedly demanding they get their 500,000 G reward. Liz looks on, flustered by her sister's boisterous outburst. Magna watches, thinking that the reward would last the three of them for months. The receptionist apologizes for the interruption and formally presents their reward. She reveals a mountain of gold, announcing the total is a staggering 3 million G. The entire party stares back with comical, wide-eyed expressions of disbelief. Lucha stammers, asking if the receptionist has made a mistake with the amount. With a knowing smirk, the receptionist confirms that there is no mistake. The captive demon Tamir explains the massive bounty that was on his head. The trio stands before the counter, dwarfed by their massive pile of gold. Lucha still struggles to believe that all the money is truly theirs. The receptionist adds that a quest of this level is usually for 3-star guilds. She looks at them with a determined expression, ready to make a grand proclamation. She announces their party, Cat's Paw, is hereby promoted to a 3-star guild. The scene shifts to a shot of the city's sturdy, multi-story buildings. The party is seen celebrating their success on a tavern balcony. The guildswoman proposes a toast to their quest completion and Magna's debut. Lucha and Magna cheer enthusiastically, their wooden mugs clinking together. With a hearty laugh, Lucha exclaims how good a drink is after hard work. Magna playfully remarks that she sounds just like an old man. Lucha encourages Liz to eat and drink, announcing that their leader is paying. Liz turns to Lucha, her expression troubled despite the celebration. She asks Magna if he was truly the one who defeated the demon user. She admits that she and her sister feel they did nothing to contribute. Magna turns to her, gently refuting her self-deprecating thoughts. He explains that because they were protecting the children, he was free to act. Lucha chimes in with a wink, declaring it a victory for their entire party. Magna encourages Liz to eat, his expression kind and reassuring. Reassured by Magna's words, Liz hesitantly agrees to join the celebration. Their mugs clink together once more in a renewed toast of camaraderie. Liz eats thoughtfully, her mind processing their new, elevated status. She quietly contemplates the reality of now being part of a 3-star guild. Lucha's ambition ignites as she realizes they can now enter the dungeon. Magna asks if she really wants to go, and she eagerly confirms it. He describes a vast, bottomless dungeon, a place of treasure and immense danger. Lucha leans in with a sly grin, mentioning she's heard rumors of a back dungeon. At a celebratory meal, the red-haired girl Liz asks Magna where he heard a certain piece of information. The scene transitions with a dark, fading effect. An overhead view shows the 3 friends gathered around a table in a tavern booth. The angelic Lucha marvels at their earnings, while Liz urges her to count the money carefully. Magna observes his friends with a faint, thoughtful smile. Their celebration is joined by the blonde guild receptionist, who congratulates Magna on his promotion. She marvels that his alchemy, which can turn an entire village into an army, is extraordinary. Her expression sharpens as she privately muses that his power feels like something beyond normal magic. Magna humbly replies that he just became skilled at conserving materials due to his impoverished past. The receptionist apologizes for bothering him, but states she has one final, important thing to say. She explains that while he elevated the party's rank, his 2 companions are only at a single-star level. With a vision of grotesque monsters, she warns that a 3-star quest is incomparably dangerous for them. With a sincere smile, she implores Magna to protect the 2 of them on their journey. Magna listens to her earnest plea, his expression serious and resolved. He gets his companion's attention by tapping his fork against his plate. Magna suggests that they should take some time to train as a 1-star team. He clarifies that they need to improve their coordination before attempting dangerous 3-star quests. Liz agrees, her expression full of doubt as she worries she would just be a burden. Lucha confidently declares that everything will be all right, though Liz questions her confidence. With a resounding thud, Lucha slams a heavy bag of their earnings onto the table. A determined, fanged grin spreads across her face as she announces her plan to buy a secret scroll. A diagram explains these are rare magic items that allow users to learn skills without training. Lucha explains that getting stronger will let them take on 3-star quests, making it a wise investment. Magna agrees it's a good plan, while Liz is shocked by her sister's unexpected strategic thinking. Fired up, Lucha urges them to finish their meal quickly so they can head to the adventurer's market. From a window above, a sinister figure watches the cheerful party as they leave the tavern. The old village chief from Magna's past rasps with a cruel smile that he has finally found him. He and his followers remark on how well the ungrateful brats who ran away seem to be doing. One of the followers asks the chief if they should try to capture Magna right now. The chief dismisses the idea, stating that Magna wouldn't listen to them anymore. A subordinate asks him what their plan is then. The chief's face twists into a menacing, shadowy grin. He declares it's simple. They will create a situation where Magna has no choice but to obey. He notes with satisfaction that circumstances are conveniently in their favor. Outside, Lucha complains to Liz about seeing some creepy-looking brats, unaware of the looming threat. The scene shifts to the sprawling Adventurers Market, a district dedicated to adventure supplies. The main street is lined with famous, reputable shops and storefronts. In the back alleys, shady dealers buy and sell stolen goods and offer illicit quests. A dueling arena highlights the market's dangerous, anything-goes atmosphere. The party arrives at the Saskatch Magic Tool Shop, a prominent establishment. A prim shopkeeper with a well-groomed mustache presents their finest wares. He displays 2 ornate scrolls stating their combined price is a staggering 2 million G. Lucha breaks into a cold sweat, overwhelmed by the sheer cost of her plan. She questions if she can really spend so much, while Liz insists it is a necessary investment. With a pained expression, Lucha reluctantly hands over the heavy bag of gold. Liz forcefully pushes a crying Lucha forward to complete the transaction. The shopkeeper calmly confirms that he has received the payment in full. He offers to show the sisters to a reading room while they wait for the imprinting process. The shopkeeper explains that imprinting the skills will take about an hour. He then asks what their companion will do in the meantime. Magna considers the 1-hour wait time, his expression thoughtful. He waves goodbye to the sisters, announcing that he'll explore the market while they wait. Magna walks alone through the bustling, narrow streets of the market. He marvels at the incredible variety of magic tools and potions on display. He reflects that he's never had a reason to visit the adventurer's market before. His curiosity is piqued, and he decides to check the prices of the potions. Picking up a simple cure potion, he guesses it might cost around 100 G. He is utterly shocked to see the price tag reads a staggering 10,000 G. A burly shopkeeper tells him that even that is a discounted price, as Magna apologizes. The shopkeeper sighs, admitting that it's a known fact that prices are high. He laments that potions are most needed by poor adventurers who can't afford them. Magna realizes that the war is likely causing the potion prices to skyrocket. The shopkeeper complains that this is just an excuse for the Alchemists Association to raise prices. This sparks a realization in Magna, connecting the prices to the association's monopoly. He holds the small vial, lost in thought. A close-up shows the low-quality liquid swirling inside the potion bottle. He thinks with disgust about the poor quality being sold at such an outrageous price. He reflects on how he once admired the Alchemists Association as a gathering place for great alchemists. Looking at the association building in the distance, he feels nothing but bitter disappointment. Lucha and Liz emerge from the magic tool shop, waving goodbye to the proprietor. Lucha is ecstatic, her hands trembling as she declares it the biggest purchase of her life. Full of newfound confidence, she is eager to test her new skills in a dungeon right away. Liz, however, soberly warns her that overconfidence can lead to injury. Lucha confidently brushes off the concern, saying it's fine since they have Magna. Liz stops her sister, her footfall heavy with a serious purpose. She questions if it's right to accept so much from Magna when they've done little to earn it. Lucha grows annoyed, retorting that Magna himself said it was fine. Liz presses on, her voice filled with guilt over always receiving things from Magna. She questions whether their relationship can even be called a true partnership. Her anxiety spirals as she asks what they would do if he were to cast them aside. She imagines them having to return to their desperate life of dangerous, low-paying quests. She asks if they could really go back to risking their lives for a few thousand G. The thought of being unable to afford medicine if they get seriously hurt is unbearable. Lucha's frustration erupts, and she grabs her sister, telling her not to be so spoiled. Her expression hardens as she declares they don't have the luxury of choosing how to live. Liz is left stunned and speechless, only able to whisper her sister's name. Their tense argument is cut short as an old man collapses in the street nearby. They rush to his side, Lucha calling out to ask what happened to him. The man weakly asks them to help him into a nearby alley. Lucha quickly agrees and tells Liz to help her assist the man. The two sisters help the fallen man into a deserted alleyway. Lucha kneels by the man, asking if he's all right and if she should call for a doctor. The man weakly thanks the kind young lady for her compassion. He explains that he will be fine once he takes his medicine. He uncorks the small vial and quickly drinks the contents. He declares that once he drinks this, he will be overflowing with vitality. His body begins to swell and contort as his muscles bulge unnaturally. He transforms into a monstrous brute, roaring that he's overflowing with energy. Lucha stares in abject terror, letting out a horrified scream. Liz screams in shock, demanding to know what this person is. A young woman in a hooded tunic, Liz, stares at a small vial. Her expression turns to shock and bewilderment, questioning what she is seeing. Three menacing, shadowy figures with malevolent grins loom over her threateningly. A powerful fist clenches tightly, radiating energy and signifying a brewing conflict. The scene transitions, showing a cobblestone ground near the base of a fountain. In a peaceful town square, the dark-haired alchemist Magna sits alone by a fountain. He feels pleased with himself, believing he has made a very good purchase. He examines a fire dragon's claw, a superior ingredient for a stamina potion. He muses that 300,000 G is a cheap price for his companion's sake. Suddenly, Magna's past confronts him as his old village chief appears. The chief feigns concern and invites a stunned Magna back to the village. Magna's face floods with shock and dawning horror at the man's presence. He addresses the chief by his title, his tone filled with deep suspicion. He flatly refuses the offer, accusing the chief of trafficking the medicine he made. The chief casually admits to silencing troublemakers, dismissing Magna's concerns. With a sly smile, he offers to introduce Magna to two lovely bride candidates. Magna reacts with flustered confusion, questioning the sudden and bizarre offer. The chief clarifies his meaning with a sinister description: two pitiful sisters. A chilling realization dawns on Magna, his expression filled with utter horror. The chief's face twists into a grotesque grin, suggesting a private discussion. The chapter title page announces the new conflict, foreshadowing trouble. The view shifts to a forest clearing from behind a character's head. Magna is horrified to see his companions held captive by hostile villagers. He screams the names of Liz and Lucha, who are tied to wooden posts. Lucha looks up, her face bruised and her expression filled with pain. Liz, also battered, weakly murmurs Magna's name in recognition. Their wrists are bound tightly to the wooden posts with heavy metal cuffs. The chief patronizingly tells Magna the flower maidens have taken a liking to him. He smugly suggests that they all return to the village together now. Magna looks at the chief, his face contorted with anger and disbelief. The ropes binding the sisters begin to sizzle and burn, causing them to scream. Magna stares, his eyes wide with shock at their escalating torment. The chief's cruel smile widens as he prompts Magna to reconsider his refusal. He lays out his terms. Return to the village or the girl's safety isn't guaranteed. Magna grits his teeth, realizing their lives are in danger because of him. He feels immense guilt for getting them involved, prioritizing their safety above all. Believing he can handle it alone, he prepares to act on his difficult decision. He offers to return to the village if they release the girls, but the chief refuses. Liz screams at Magna, telling him not to give in to their demands. A burly villager strikes Liz for her defiance, but she doesn't back down. The villager snarls, telling her to shut her mouth. Liz, bloodied but resolute, tells Magna not to worry about them and to fight. Lucha yells at him, calling him a fool for considering such a thing. Liz recalls her sister's words about not having the luxury to choose how they live. She decides that if they're in danger anyway, she'd rather fight to escape. Liz passionately declares that fighting together is what makes them true comrades. Her powerful words strike a chord with Lucha, whose expression shifts. A tear of resolve forms in Lucha's eye as she looks at her sister. She bites her lip, her determination hardening in that moment. Lucha glares at Magna, yelling that she hates pain and to save them quickly. Liz clenches her jaw, her spirit ignited by her sister's fierce courage. The scene shows Magna facing the villagers and his captive friends. A mysterious woman with wavy blonde hair appears, telling Magna to protect them. Galvanized, Magna admits his mistake and draws his alchemical device. The chief, misreading the situation, gives a chilling and violent order. He commands his men to kill one of the girls, but Magna acts first. Lucha's face contorts in terror as the villagers move to attack. The sisters brace for the blow, their faces filled with fear. Liz shuts her eyes tight, expecting the worst to happen. The chief is stunned, questioning if Magna is taking hostages. Magna flashes a confident grin, taunting the chief about his miscalculation. Lucha's eyes widen in disbelief at Magna's sudden and unexpected action. Magna tells the mysterious woman he's leaving the rest to her. With a powerful kick, Magna shatters the wooden post holding the sisters. The chief can only stare, dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. Freed, Lucha unleashes her blade waltz, a whirlwind of devastating slashes. Liz follows up with her 100-flower kick, sending villagers flying. The village chief looks on, aghast at their overwhelming and sudden power. Magna reveals he fired a fire dragon's claw at them. The sisters stand ready, explaining they were shot with his gun. He explains he used their bodies to alchemize a stamina potion internally. The chief recoils in horror, questioning the use of humans as ingredients. Magna aims his device, stating his golden alchemy is not selective of materials. He tells the chief that, of all people, he should know this. The chief's mouth curls into a low, menacing laugh. His laughter grows louder, signaling the fight is not yet over. A hulking, elderly villager's silhouette rises with monstrous energy. He declares that Magna's absurd talent now belongs to him. With a crazed look, he vows he won't let anyone else have him. He roars Magna's name, vowing to drag him back by cutting off his limbs. He promises to show Magna the power of his body in its prime. Identifying himself as a former triple-star bandit, he leaps forward. He crashes down, intent on showing Magna the true power of a veteran. The attack misses, kicking up a cloud of dust and debris. Magna has already dodged and launched a devastating counterkick. The impact sends the old man flying backward with immense force. The bandit is stunned, unable to comprehend what just happened. Magna calmly asks if he really drank 10 stamina potions with one hand. The defeated man questions the idea of conducting clinical trials. Magna states he never distributes a product without first confirming its safety. He explains the need to determine proper dosage for such a potent medicine. He reveals he tested every single variation of the potion on his own body. A flashback shows a younger Magna pushing his body to the limit daily. His fingers crack and crumble from the strain of his dangerous experiments. As a side effect, his physical abilities were permanently and unnaturally enhanced. The old bandit clutches his chest, his body racked with agonizing pain. Magna's boots stand firm on the broken ground, his love for his friends renewed. He states that it would be troublesome if the man died from his medicine. He thrusts his hand forward in a powerful, decisive motion. In a rough treatment, he plunges his hand into the man's chest to purge the poison. An unconscious elderly man lies sprawled on the ground amidst a pool of black sludge as Magna watches. The man's hand, once unnaturally muscular, begins to tremble and strain under immense pressure. Rapidly, the hand withers and ages, the skin becoming wrinkled and frail in an instant. Magna states with clinical certainty that the man's life will be saved once the purging is complete. Turning to the other villagers, he calmly asks who among them requires treatment next. Terrified, the men quickly insist they are perfectly fine and will be leaving immediately. Magna quietly reflects on the things he has come to understand since leaving his old village. He realizes he admires people like his companions, Lucia and Liz, who strive to help others. Conversely, he feels a deep-seated hatred for scumbags who would exploit such kindness. His expression hardens with conviction, stating that he doesn't need to hear their answer. Suddenly, a powerful fist connects solidly with his jaw, sending him stumbling backward. Clutching his face in pain, Magna wonders aloud if he just has a punchable face. He then offers a sincere apology to his companions for all the trouble he has caused. Liz sternly tells Lucia not to hit him, but Lucia just laughs it off as a startled reaction. He admits that he acted rashly, prompted by Liz's defiance, in his desire to protect them. Despite the pain, a small smile forms as he confesses that he was actually very happy. He admits that while calling them comrades, he hadn't truly been seeing them as his equals. Because of this mindset, he had been passive about their goal of tackling a triple-star quest. With a new fire in his eyes, he enthusiastically declares that they should do it together. Lucia stares at him, her expression one of stunned silence at his sudden change of heart. Liz, however, offers a confident smile, assuring him that everything will be all right. Raising a fist, Magna sets an audacious new goal, a reward of 100 million. The scene shifts to the imposing, multi-storied tower of the Alchemist Association's Kremlin branch. A blond man with a goatee and a stern expression knocks on a pair of grand, ornate doors. From within the shadowed room, a voice asks who is disturbing him. The man introduces himself as Klaus, explaining he's here regarding the provisional employment exam. He states that he wishes to hear Professor Wiseman's opinion on a certain matter. Inside a lavish, book-lined office, Klaus stands before the seated professor. A simple potted plant with wilting leaves sits on the professor's desk. The elderly man, identified as Professor Wiseman, holds up the plant, intrigued by Klaus's story. Klaus explains his utter confusion over a candidate's seemingly impossible alchemical achievements. Wiseman initially dismisses the idea, stating that such a thing is simply impossible. Klaus breaks into a nervous sweat, taken aback by the professor's firm declaration. Wiseman then theorizes that creating a legendary panacea from a common heel leaf is, in fact, possible. Klaus explains the concept of magic resistance, which wastes a majority of a material's power. To extract so much essence from the substandard materials provided would be an incredible feat. With horror, Klaus realizes such a person could create powerful weapons from common pebbles. He concludes that the ability to endlessly recombine matter is no longer alchemy. This power, he declares, is akin to the work of a god creating humanity from dust. Wiseman calmly states that according to the report, the candidate did exactly that. The professor concludes that the candidate is godlike and therefore unqualified to be an alchemist. Klaus bows his head deeply, offering a sincere apology for his part in the matter. Wiseman's hands gesture with sudden manic energy as his entire demeanor changes. He breaks into a wide, predatory grin, praising Klaus for his wonderfully accurate judgment. Klaus is completely stunned, his face a mask of bewilderment at the professor's chilling glee. Wiseman explains that their products are valuable precisely because they are rare and inefficient. If someone could make powerful potions from weeds, the market would collapse their authority. His face darkens as he snarls that the existence of a godlike alchemist is unforgivable. Klaus listens, sweating profusely, his face a mask of dawning terror. Wiseman gives a cold, swift order to contact their secret enforcement unit, the Anbu. An ornate magical staff is shown as he reveals he has already summoned the witch. The scene changes to a bustling adventurers' guild hall filled with people. An adventurer asks his companions if they have heard the incredible rumors about Cat's Paw. Another marvels at how they jumped from a 1-star to a triple-star rank so quickly. One adventurer questions an alchemist's use, while another mentions the high cost of materials. The rumor spreads that this new alchemist can create anything from any material. A third adventurer scoffs, dismissing the tales of making potions from weeds as a fantasy. Just then, An adventurer shouts that the party Cat's Paw has returned to the guild. The grand doors of the guild hall swing open, revealing the trio. Lucia complains about the lack of treasure, while Liz notes the shallow areas are picked clean. Liz mentions that thanks to a secret scroll, they were at least able to handle the monsters. Lucia suggests buying better gear to go deeper, but Liz reminds her they have no money. Magna reflects that more gear and fewer members would make a long expedition too risky. He dismisses Lucia's idea to hire more people, stating they simply cannot afford it. A towering man in ornate armor approaches, identifying Magna as the rumored newcomer. The armored man's gaze is calm and confident as he assesses the young alchemist. Magna, surprised by the attention, confirms that he is the one he's looking for. An onlooker in the crowd recognizes the famous armored warrior with a start. The man introduces himself as Percival, leader of the Quad-Star Guild Red Hounds. Magna offers a polite but slightly overwhelmed thank you for the introduction. Percival extends an offer for Magna to join his guild, promising special treatment. Magna is completely taken aback, sweating nervously at the sudden high-profile offer. Lucia reacts with surprise and confusion, watching the exchange unfold. A new sharp voice interrupts, telling the damn dog not to proceed without her. The woman Lilica winks, suggesting her all-female guild is far more exciting. She leans over Magna, whispering that she'll provide very special service if he joins. Lucia and Liz react with immediate outrage at the brazen attempt to poach their leader. Lucia shouts furiously that she will never allow him to be stolen away from them. Percival grimly states that it's a great loss to society when such power is wasted. Lilica condescendingly dismisses the sisters as children earning pocket money. Lucia and Liz seethe with fury, hissing at the insulting remark. Magna bows his head, listening intently to the competing offers from the guild leaders. To the surprise of Lilica, Percival concedes and apologizes for his forwardness. Both veteran adventurers are shocked when Magna makes his unexpected decision. Magna explains that he became an adventurer simply to be useful to other people. He recalls his companions fighting desperately, risking their lives for almost no reward. He declares his wish to continue working with them, feeling immense pride in Cat's Paw. Lucia's eyes sparkle with hearts as she cries out Magna's name in pure adoration. She tackles him in a fierce hug, kissing his cheek and repeatedly declaring her love. A flustered Liz tries to pull her sister off the embarrassed and overwhelmed Magna. Lilica mutters about the dazzling intensity of youth, while Percival looks on impassively. Percival addresses the flustered Magna with a newfound sense of respect. He smiles warmly, telling Magna that he has found truly good companions. He expresses his regret, admitting he had wanted Magna's power for the Great Exploration. Magna is intrigued by the term, questioning what the Great Exploration is. A sharp interrupting sound cuts through the air as a new figure arrives. The entire group turns their attention to the entrance to see who has appeared. Professor Wiseman tips his hat, announcing that he has business with the guild Cat's Paw. In a formal meeting room, Wiseman bows deeply, apologizing for the unfair exam screening. Magna is completely stunned, his hat falling from his head as he stares in disbelief. An elderly man bows deeply, taking full responsibility for his supervisory failures and offering a sincere apology. The dark-haired young man, Magna, urges the bowing man and his blonde companion to raise their heads. Magna then insists that he is no longer bothered by the previous incident. A spirited blonde woman with a halo looks up in surprise, asking what their actual request is. The elderly man, Professor Wiseman, sits up and confirms that he does have a request for them. With a serious expression, he formally invites the guild Cat's Paw to the 38th Great Exploration. The blonde woman repeats the unfamiliar term, Great Exploration, with a look of confusion. A blonde man named Klaus steps forward, offering to provide an explanation for the group. Klaus begins by bowing politely to Magna in a gesture of respect. Magna returns the formal gesture with a slight nod of his own. Klaus explains that the Great Exploration is a massive dungeon excavation project run by the Alchemist Association. He describes a vast, unconquered dungeon lying deep beneath the continent, its full extent still unknown. The main force's objective is to excavate the area around a depth of 800 meters. The mission will mobilize roughly 200 adventurers and staff, from the highest to lowest guild ranks. Their responsibilities include securing routes, setting up camps, and excavating resources under guard. He reveals the specific, perilous mission for Cat's Paw to be a vanguard aiming for a depth of 1,000 meters. Klaus frames this as a noble, though dangerous, quest that will greatly contribute to humanity's development. He concludes his formal presentation with a deep bow, asking for their cooperation. The blonde woman, smiling sweetly, asks what kind of reward they can expect for this task. Professor Wiseman chides Klaus for giving a long and unappealing presentation. He offers his apologies to the young lady for his subordinate's dry explanation. Clapping his hands together, he prepares to make a more enticing offer himself. Wiseman promises to provide all supplies, wanting Cat's Paw to be his personal treasure hunters. He assures them he will pay a price for their findings that will more than pique their interest. Stunned, the blonde woman grabs her companions, insisting they must discuss the incredible offer. Huddled together, their dark-skinned companion whispers that the proposition sounds incredibly tempting. Magna thoughtfully agrees that it is indeed a very appealing opportunity. He reasons that with supplies in a base camp, a mission impossible for three becomes feasible. Their cautious red-haired friend reminds them that such offers have only brought them trouble before. Magna counters that a credible organization like the Alchemist Association wouldn't make a fraudulent request. The blonde woman, convinced by his logic, announces her belief that they should accept the offer. She slams her hand down decisively, enthusiastically accepting the mission on their behalf. Professor Wiseman's face twists into a wide, sharp-toothed, and utterly sinister grin. With a sly smile, Professor Wiseman suggests they waste no time finalizing the contract. The warrior Lilica playfully announces that she and Percival will also join the vanguard. A week later, Magna formally accepts the mission with a confident smile. Their grand expedition begins at the entrance to the Virgil ruins near Kremlin. A massive force of over 200 adventurers descends into the dungeon. They navigate the twisting, disorienting passages of a vast, dark underground labyrinth. The team, including a gleeful Lucia and a stoic Percival, ventures deeper. They reach Hadet, a bustling city where lower-ranked guilds handle logistics from the surface. The main force resupplies before pushing further into the unknown depths. At 400 meters down, they enter a bizarre subterranean forest of massive roots. A colossal, winged serpent-like monster confronts the five-person vanguard team. The beast's claw swipes viciously through the air with incredible speed and force. Lilica gracefully dodges the ferocious attacks of the swarming monsters around them. The entire party charges forward in a whirlwind of coordinated strikes. A monster's massive head snaps down, narrowly missing one of the adventurers. Magna raises his twin pistols, contributing to the fight with ranged support. From a high ledge, the main expedition force cheers on the vanguard below. 10 days later, they arrive at the Dragon's Graveyard, 800 meters underground. A breathtaking bridge made from a dragon's colossal spine spans a deep chasm. Lucia, her face pale with fear, nervously questions the bridge's stability. Her companion Liz voices her own unease, pointing out it's made of bone. Percival confidently reassures them that dragon bone is far stronger than stone. Liz looks on in awe, wondering how such a massive dragon could have existed. He explains these creatures lived eons ago, and this is a preserved stratum. An adventurer's boot steps firmly onto the solid cavern floor on the other side. Exhausted, Lucia collapses, relieved to have finally made it across the chasm. Lilica notes that glowing moss from a past expedition still illuminates the cavern. Percival agrees with her assessment, his expression satisfied with their progress. He declares the location their new base camp and begins issuing orders to the group. Adventurers are instructed to immediately begin constructing defensive barricades and walls. They are warned to remain vigilant, especially for surprise attacks from the sky. The five-person vanguard stands together, ready for the next stage of their mission. With a grim look, Percival states that after resting, they will proceed into the dragon's jaw. A fearsome passage awaits, formed from the gaping, skeletal maw of a dead dragon. The party's goal is the Naraku Great Waterfall, 928 meters deep, humanity's deepest point. Their leader, Percival, grimly announces they are entering uncharted territory and must be prepared. The dark-haired alchemist confirms his understanding with a look of steely resolve. His companions nervously remark that the intimidating dragon skull entrance looks like it will eat them. Elsewhere, a blonde woman is seen near a short, elderly man and another with a goatee. The man with the goatee asks his elderly companion about the location of the witch. Deep within a chasm, a lone witch confronts two massive winged shadow serpents. From an unseen person's sleeve, three smaller, serpentine familiars hiss aggressively. The witch clenches her fist, gathering a tremendous amount of magical energy. A cataclysmic blast of power erupts from her, engulfing the area in light. The alchemist smirks, informing his shocked friends that the advance party has already arrived. The chapter The Red Calamity begins as the party confronts monstrous silhouettes. Two bipedal armor lizards are identified as threat level 2 monsters with incredibly hard scales. The full party, Percival, Cygnus, the alchemist, Lucia, and Liz, stands ready for battle. A warrior charges forward, his massive blade ready to meet the reptilian beast. Activating Power Charge, he unleashes a massive wave of destructive energy. The warrior Sickness executes Calamity Edge, slicing cleanly through several lizards. The alchemist takes aim with his handgun, firing at one of the creatures. His bullets ricochet harmlessly off the armor lizard's impenetrable hide. Realizing its toughness, the alchemist decides he must use a different approach. He declares he will strike it directly, unleashing his Golden Forge technique. The creature's body is impaled by dark spikes, and it collapses in a heap. Cygnus remarks on the alchemist's terrifying power, while Percival questions if the corpse is usable. Percival suddenly turns his head, shouting out to one of his companions. Liz is pinned by a lizard's claw, crying for help while Lucia looks on. Percival reminds Liz that her secret scroll contains a skill that ignores enemy defense. His words snap Liz out of her panic, her expression hardening with resolve. The monster's sharp claws are shown digging into Liz's arm. Ducking low, Liz prepares to unleash her own powerful counterattack. She declares she will use her fighting spirit, gathering energy for her martial arts form. From a distance, Lucia observes that her companion's stance is slightly off. Liz thrusts her hand forward, unleashing the powerful electric violet lightning palm. Cygnus yells with fierce resolve, declaring her ally's skill can cut through both armor and body. With a grunt of pure effort, the fanged adventurer, Lucia, struggles against the monster. She leaps onto its back, declaring her current attack isn't strong enough. Her twin swords strike the creature's armored hide with minimal effect. She realizes a single strike is at its limit against the tough armor. Gathering her strength, she resolves to strike with one more powerful blow. Crossing her blades, she channels her fighting spirit for the decisive attack. She unleashes her ultimate technique, the twin sword dance Gavotte Cross. With a triumphant fanged grin, she joyfully shouts that she has succeeded. Percival compliments her, noting her twin sword dance scroll was a good purchase. He explains it's a top-tier scroll used by 5-star guilds, though she complains about the high price. The warrior Cygnus apologizes for underestimating their alchemist, looking towards him. With a smile, she says they needed the best gear for such a capable adventurer. Lucia winks playfully at her companion Riza, telling her she's counting on her. A slightly flustered Riza shyly agrees, saying she is counting on her too. Noir smiles, pleased that their advance investment was a great success. Percival checks his gauntlet device, announcing their current depth is 900 meters. He states that their destination, the Naraku Great Waterfall, is just ahead. A massive underground water vein creates the falls and he urges them forward. The scene shifts far away to the Kremlin meeting place on the surface. The grand building of the Adventurers Guild stands under a bright sky. Inside, the blonde receptionist ends a call on a magical communication device. Her subordinate reports that the massive dungeon operation is proceeding smoothly. The receptionist worries as the mission involves half of her branch's fighting force. A rugged adventurer with a sword on his back casually greets them. The receptionist recognizes the scarred man as the adventurer named Toshu. He states that he is there to pick up a new guild card. The receptionist's face lights up, exclaiming that she's been waiting for him. Toshu observes her intense eagerness as she leans over the counter. She praises the triple-star rookie who captured a large bandit group on his first job. Toshu recalls a harrowing story he heard before arriving at the port. The ship he was on was nearly sunk by a colossal kraken. The receptionist is shocked, asking if it was a quadruple-star level monster. He confirms the ship arrived safely, recounting the sailor's tale of the miracle. A lone witch on deck incinerated the kraken with powerful fire magic. The receptionist is stunned, marveling at a witch who could burn a water monster. Back in the dungeon, the party stands on a precipice, sensing something amiss. Lucia screams with delight, announcing they've reached the Naraku Great Waterfall. Noir's expression is serious as he senses a sudden change in the atmosphere. He wonders aloud why the temperature has suddenly risen so sharply. Percival's face grows grim, recalling there are only 7 quintuple-star criminals. A figure plummets from above. He fears the Red Calamity has arrived. The party is frozen, their inexperience with true killing intent delaying their reactions. Noir realizes his brief hesitation caused a fatal delay in his judgment. Only Percival moves without pause, his face a mask of grim determination. He activates his Aegis Guard, a shield multiplying his defense 100-fold. The shield shatters instantly, the enemy's scorching attack piercing right through. The witch Melt stands over her fallen foe, Prometheus looming behind her. A blonde warrior, Lyrica, had lunged at Melt with incredible speed. Their simultaneous movements created a fatal opening, exploited by the witch. Lyrica's attack had been certain, aimed directly at the witch's neck. Her face contorts in disbelief as her attack misses completely. Melt is already behind her, an arm around her throat, a despair-inducing gap in skill. Lyrica's eyes go white as the final, crushing blow is delivered. A massive fiery explosion from Prometheus engulfs them both in a blinding flash. The shockwave sends Magna tumbling violently across the broken ground. The bodies of his two fallen comrades lie motionless amidst the rubble. His companion Rusha watches from a distance, her face pale with shock. Magna stares in horror at the scene of utter devastation before him. Liz is beside Rusha, her expression one of disbelief and fear. Melt grins, her thought revealing the entire exchange took only 3 seconds. A pleased, sharp-toothed chuckle escapes her lips, full of sinister delight. The battle of divine magic versus golden alchemy begins as Magna faces her. He regrets his delayed judgment, which led to his two allies falling. He pushes aside regret, knowing he must act now, and lunges forward. Melt begins to conjure another spell, a swirling ball of dark energy. Magna is shocked as his attack passes harmlessly through her form. He calls out her name, Melt, and she questions how he knows it. Lucha is stunned, asking if Magna is somehow acquainted with the witch. He denies knowing her, wondering how she, in turn, knows his name. Melt grins, glad she found the right person, as it would be troublesome otherwise. She recalls her sensei saying that Magna is a very bad person. Magna reacts with shock to this startling revelation from his opponent. Melt explains that his alchemy is causing trouble for many people. She continues that her sensei asked her to defeat him for that reason. Her face twists in desperation, screaming that she needs to be needed. She wails that otherwise, she shouldn't even exist in this world. So please die, she screams, unleashing her divine magic, Prometheus. Magna is utterly bewildered, having no idea what this woman is talking about. He pushes aside his confusion, knowing his only goal is to stop her. He tosses a vial to his companions, calling out to Rusha and Liz. They catch the vial, recognizing it as a powerful all-cure elixir. Magna provokes Prometheus by firing his alchemical pistols at the golem. He declares he will draw its attention while they tend to the others. He yells that it's an elixir and to treat their two fallen comrades. He dives and weaves, expertly dodging the golem's powerful energy blasts. A sudden wave of massive stone spikes erupts from the ground. Melt uses her own alchemy to interfere with his evasion tactics. He dodges again, and a look of understanding dawns on his face. He watches Melt standing calmly amidst the chaos of the battle. He murmurs to himself that he now understands her strange trick. His attacks aren't missing. They're passing through a heat-distorted mirage. He realizes that what he sees isn't real. No attack can hit her. He decides to change his strategy, minimizing attacks and focusing on evasion. His eye glows as he analyzes her constantly active, powerful magic. A status scan reveals her MP is rapidly draining from the high cost. He calculates that if he can survive for 3 more minutes, he will win. Melt's wicked grin returns, musing that everyone always thinks the same thing. Magna suddenly stumbles, clutching his throat and gasping for air. He realizes with dawning horror what is happening to him. Melt explains her golem's flames consume vast amounts of oxygen as well as mana. Gasping on the ground, Magna realizes the witch's flames have consumed all the oxygen. Melt, the witch, raises her hand with a sharp-toothed grin, preparing a final attack. Her armored golem, Prometheus, mirrors her pose, gathering an immense sphere of energy. The golem unleashes its devastating gamma-ray eschatology, a torrent of pure power. A female companion screams Magna's name, her face a mask of pure terror. With grim resolve, Magna declares that he will not allow his enemy to win. He slams his palms to the ground, summoning his golden alchemy castle wall. The cataclysmic beam of energy smashes into the newly formed rock barrier. Magna groans, the wall cracking under the immense strain of the powerful blast. He knows a simple barrier is not enough. The sheer heat will kill him. An idea strikes him, inspired by the insulating feathers of a winter sparrow. He restructures the wall's interior into a honeycomb pattern, creating an air-based thermal shield. Melt laughs maniacally, dismissing his desperate, petty trick as completely useless. She throws her head back, cackling with pure, triumphant glee at his futile efforts. Magna's face contorts in disbelief, realizing she can fire this magic consecutively. With a gleeful sneer, Melt confirms his fears, unleashing a second gamma ray. The second blast is charged, ready to obliterate everything in its path. A torrent of pure white energy hurtles towards the struggling alchemist's position. Melt screams for him to be utterly obliterated as the world vanishes in light. Amidst the smoking aftermath, she pants heavily, her magical energy seemingly spent. A quick flash reveals Magna's determined eye, hinting at a hidden plan. The landscape is a smoking ruin, a massive crater carved into the rock wall. The witch stumbles forward, her body weak but her spirit triumphant. A low, satisfied chuckle escapes her lips as she surveys the utter destruction. Looking skyward, she asks her unseen sensei if she has proven herself useful. One of Magna's companions whispers in disbelief, her face pale with horror. She and another revived ally cry out Magna's name in anguish, believing him dead. At the start of a new chapter, Melt laughs softly at her apparent victory. A massive, dark spike suddenly erupts from her back, impaling her completely. A female companion whispers Magna's name, her expression one of utter shock. The witch coughs up a spray of blood, her eyes wide with confused agony. A dark silhouette of Magna emerges from the smoke and dust, alive and resolute. His two female companions stare in wide-eyed, joyous disbelief at his survival. Impaled and defeated, the witch Melt weakly asks how her opponent is still alive. From the smoke, Magna rises, holding two smoking pistols with a look of grim resolve. He explains with a smirk that alchemy does not create from nothing, but transmutes matter. The material for his supposed barrier, he reveals, was pulled from the ground beneath him. With a confident grin, he declares his true objective was never to block the flames, but to dig a hole. Lying on the ground, Melt realizes with a shock that she was careless and has been completely outmaneuvered. Magna's relieved companions, a fanged blonde and a red-hooded girl, rush towards him. Overcome with emotion, the red-hooded girl cries out his name, overjoyed he is safe. The fanged girl gives a thumbs up, exclaiming that it was a terrifyingly close call. A faint smile on his face, Magna asks about the condition of their two other comrades. The armored warrior Percival emerges from the dust, confirming he is safe thanks to Magna. He and the dark-skinned warrior Cygnus appear, admitting they are alive but utterly exhausted. Percival looks at Melt, explaining the immense power of her divine magic, a spell that usually requires 10 mages. He reveals she is Melt of the Red Calamity, one of only 7 5-star criminals in the world. He acknowledges that despite her terrifying power, they somehow managed to defeat her. Magna humbly gives credit to his comrades, saying they survived because the warriors blocked the initial attack. Cygnus listens, acknowledging his point but still processing the near-fatal encounter. The party gathers around the fallen witch, questioning why she was so intent on killing Magna. The red-hooded girl thoughtfully recalls Melt mentioning that a sensei had given her the order. The fanged girl asks Magna if he can think of anyone who would harbor such a deep grudge. He considers the possibility but finds it hard to believe his old enemy possesses such powerful connections. Their discussion is cut short as a pair of impeccably polished shoes steps into view. A stern, well-dressed old man appears, coldly asking his subordinate, Melt, if she has failed. The party is startled by the sudden arrival of the old man and his companion, Klaus. Melt's hand trembles on the ground, her body racked with fear and shame. With blood on her lips, she stammers a pained apology to her sensei. The old man's gloved hand clenches as he expresses his high expectations for her. His top hat lies on the ground nearby, a symbol of his authority in this tense situation. With cold, unforgiving eyes, he tells Melt that he is disappointed in her failure. The single word disappointed strikes Melt with absolute terror, her eyes widening in horror. She lets out a desperate pain scream, collapsing in fear before her master. The adventuring party watches the newcomers, their expressions turning hostile and wary. Cygnus angrily identifies the man as Melt's client, while Percival demands an explanation from Professor Wiseman. The dark-skinned warrior, Lyrica, angrily demands to know if the old man hired the Red Calamity. With a placid smile, Wiseman confirms his goal was to eliminate a future threat to his association. His sharp eyes convey disappointment, stating he seems to have overestimated Magna's capabilities. Magna is startled by the old man's dismissive and confusing statement. Wiseman begins a lecture, explaining Magna's alchemy transmutes matter with impossible efficiency. Continuing his speech, he calls Magna's power godlike, yet mockingly says it is far from the real thing. Despite his assessment, he concludes that Magna remains a significant threat to the association. A grim expression dawns on Magna's face as he understands he must be eliminated. Lyrica explodes with fury, shouting at Wiseman not to be so full of himself. Preparing to strike, her sharp claws extend as she readies her attack. She lunges forward in a feint, her body a blur of swift motion. Her shadow stitch technique successfully pins the old man's shadow to the ground. Wiseman looks on in surprise, caught off guard by her clever tactic. Trapped by his own shadow, he is held completely immobile. Lyrica yells at Magna to attack now that she has created an opening. Magna's face hardens with steely resolve, his hesitation gone. He understands that their enemy's malice must be met in kind. Taking aim with unwavering focus, he points his alchemical firearm at the trapped man. A brilliant flash erupts from the barrel as he fires his weapon. The golden alchemy purge attack strikes Wiseman's head as Lucia cheers in victory. His body begins to disintegrate, flaking away into countless particles of light. As his form completely vanishes, his monocle clatters to the ground. The other party members, Percival and Lyrica, watch in stunned disbelief. Behind them, the particles of light coalesce, and Wiseman's form reconstitutes, completely unharmed. Now a creepy child, he reintroduces himself as Victor Wiseman, master of the life equation. The two girls in the party gasp in utter horror at this impossible sight. His small body begins to shudder and warp, starting another transformation. A massive black scorpion tail sprouts from his back in a genome re-edit. Magna watches horrified, realizing he is rewriting the very blueprint of life. The monstrous child raises a hand to cast his next spell. A shimmering Ace Guard dome materializes, trapping the entire party. Ignoring them, the monstrous Wiseman turns his attention toward his failed subordinate, Melt. Percival observes with confusion, noting that their enemy's target is not Magna. A horned figure is slammed to the ground, eyes wide with shock as another person is sent flying backward from the attack. The alchemist Wiseman turns on his failed subordinate, a shadowy tendril snaking towards her. A young adventurer cries out, horrified that he would attack his own comrade. The witch Melt lets out a blood-curdling scream of agony as she is seized. Wiseman coldly states that she will serve one last purpose, activating a forced command. Melt's face contorts in an excruciating scream as the powerful spell takes hold. Her body goes limp as a swirling vortex of dark energy begins to form around her. The party watches in horror as their defeated foe is lifted into the air, becoming a living bomb. Magna realizes with terror that the impending explosion is wild and will vaporize everything. In a desperate gambit, he screams for everyone to jump down into the abyss. Magna slams his hand on the cavern floor, initiating his last-ditch escape plan. A catastrophic explosion of pure white light erupts with a deafening roar. The blast shatters the rock floor, engulfing the entire area in a sphere of destruction. The powerful shockwave slams into the adventurers, sending them tumbling into the chasm. A single boot is seen as a party member is thrown from the crumbling ledge. The entire group is sent flying into the deep chasm, screaming as they fall. They plummet into the darkness, a grim text box marking their depth at 4,360 meters. The warrior woman marvels at the sheer power of the blast that nearly killed them. Her companion remarks with relief that they barely managed to escape the cataclysm. The fanged girl points out with rising panic that they are far from being saved. She screams in terror, realizing a fall from this incredible height is absolutely fatal. Looking to her leader, she desperately asks Magna what they are going to do. She is then shocked to see Magna holding on to their unconscious enemy, Melt, as they fall. Melt's unconscious form is held securely in Magna's grasp during their descent. Magna explains that if he had left her behind, she would have certainly died. The party continues its long, terrifying fall into the seemingly bottomless, misty chasm. The fanged girl cries out in surprise, noticing the massive waterfall has vanished. The warrior woman explains the immense drop has atomized the water into a fine mist. The knight Percival checks his wrist device, noting their incredible depth. The device shows they have already fallen over 2,000 meters from the waterfall's top. A companion notes with dread that the bottom of the chasm is still nowhere in sight. Magna calmly reassures his panicking friends, telling them that he has a plan. He turns to the now conscious Melt, stating that he needs her help to succeed. Melt's eye widens in confusion, a single word of questioning on her lips. The fanged girl shouts in outrage, reminding Magna that Melt is their enemy. As they fall, Magna explains to Melt that she was abandoned by her master. He proposes that they must cooperate with each other in order to survive. Magna presents his last all-heal potion to Melt as a gesture of trust. He then instructs Percival to have Melt fire a full-power spell at him towards the bottom. The warrior woman and another girl cry out, thinking Magna's plan is dangerous and insane. Magna looks on with a tense and determined expression, awaiting Melt's answer. Melt asks in disbelief if he is truly relying on her for this plan. Magna looks at her with desperate earnestness, confirming his sincere plea. He insists that she is the only one he can ask for help in this situation. A wide, feral grin filled with sharp, predatory teeth spreads across Melt's face. She accepts with wild enthusiasm, popping the potion's cork with her sharp teeth. Fully healed, Melt summons her powerful, Prometheus divine magic below Percival. With a mighty roar, she unleashes her gamma ray spell into the abyss. Magna braces himself, anticipating the violent reaction he has planned for. He reasons that a massive pool of water must surely lie at the chasm's bottom. Hitting that vast body of water with immense heat will cause a predictable result. A colossal steam explosion erupts from the depths, rushing up towards them. Magna's face breaks into a grim smile as he announces the updraft's arrival. He yells for Percival to catch the powerful steam current with his shield. Percival understands the insane logic of the plan, a look of realization dawning. He deploys his ace guard at maximum power, creating a massive energy shield. The violent updraft slams into the newly formed shield with incredible force. The shield groans and shudders under the immense pressure of the superheated steam. Though cracking under the strain, the hexagonal barrier holds firm against the blast. A party member lands unsteadily on the shield's surface, their terrifying fall halted. The Fang girl exclaims in shock that their fall has stopped, realizing the plan. Magna spots a dark cave entrance and yells for everyone to jump inside immediately. They scramble to safety inside the cave, escaping the dissipating steam just in time. The remains of the energy shield begin to crack and break apart under the strain. The last fragments of the shattered shield disappear into the darkness below. The exhausted party collapses on the narrow cave ledge, finally safe from the fall. Magna does a quick head count, asking if everyone made it to the cave. The red-hooded girl confirms with a shaky voice that they somehow survived. The fanged girl breathes a sigh of relief, thankful to be alive after the ordeal. Percival remarks that they managed to pull off the impossible against all odds. Magna checks his device, stating their depth is 4,360 meters, a new human record. The warrior woman grimly notes that this is yet another daunting problem to face. She looks at Melt, stating that saving her is the real issue they must now address. She reminds them that a 5-star designated criminal like Melt cannot be trusted. The red-hooded girl agrees, pointing out that Melt was just trying to kill Magna. Percival acknowledges that they must discuss how to handle their new, dangerous captive. Melt overhears their discussion, asking if she is really such a nuisance to them. With a sad smile, she acknowledges the great trouble she has caused them all. She gets to her feet, assuring them that it's all right and they need not worry. Turning her back to the group, she states that she will die soon anyway. She begins to walk away into the darkness, intending to simply disappear. The entire party shouts in a panicked chorus, utterly shocked by her declaration. They stare after her, bewildered and confused by her sudden, morbid decision. Magna lunges forward, desperately yelling for her to wait and not to leave. He manages to grab her arm just as she's about to vanish into the cave. Melt turns back, surprised, remarking that he has saved her yet again. With a sad smile, she explains she was just trying to disappear to stop being a bother. Her eyes soften as she realizes Magna is genuinely worried about her well-being. Magna scolds her for her sudden and rash decision to walk away and give up. He yells at her, telling her that she must not treat her own life so lightly. Magna addresses the group, acknowledging that he understands their apprehension towards Melt. He explains that in these unknown depths, they face countless unknown threats. He argues that they need all the fighting power they can get to ensure their survival. Percival agrees with Magna's assessment, voicing his support for the temporary alliance. The warrior woman looks at Percival in shock, questioning his surprising decision. He explains that a path this deep is suspicious and Melt's immense power is needed. The fanged girl reluctantly agrees that cooperation is their best option for now. The red-hooded girl quietly looks at her companion, accepting the group's decision. The warrior woman concedes but warns Melt that they will be watching her closely. Melt shyly asks Magna to call her by her name, thanking him for his trust. She cheerfully tells him to let her know if she becomes a nuisance so she can die. Visibly uncomfortable, Magna explains that he cannot simply tell someone to die so casually. The tense moment is suddenly shattered by the sharp clap of a gauntleted hand. Percival announces that they will rest, eat, and update their dark magic resistance potions. Finding the ledge too cramped, Cygnus points to a path and suggests they move. Magna steps past the seated witch, leading the group into the newly discovered passage. He expresses his shock at finding a man-made stone floor so deep underground. Lucha's face lights up with glee, realizing they may have found undiscovered ancient ruins. The party resolves to venture into the dark, mysterious tunnel to see what lies ahead.